Hi guys, welcome back. I don't know about you guys, but here in Texas, it's been freezing, which means we've been inside way more than we are used to. And so my kids have been really into looking at these really cool books about like fantastic earth facts and top 10 for kids, like nature stories, but also it's got us doing a lot of research about unsolved mysteries and stories here in the world, things that people have discovered but don't quite know why or how that they're there. And so it got me thinking, these are awesome stories I don't know the answer to, so I need your help. I want you to put your brains on. I'm gonna tell you all these unsolved mysteries ranging from airplanes that go missing, or vortexes sucking people, or the ancient pyramids in Egypt, or the Stonehenge, these giant rocks that form the circle. But all these things, people don't know why they're there or how they got there. So I want you to help me figure it out. And maybe we can find some answers to some of these unsolved mysteries, all right? So put your thinking hats on, here we go. Okay, so before we get to the new story, we're gonna talk about one of our old stories because they all work together. And I want you to come up with a conclusion at the end about how you think these are all tied together. So remember, not long ago, we talked about the Bermuda Triangle. And if you don't remember what the Bermuda Triangle is, it's that area of the ocean around Cuba, around Florida, where over 100 planes and ships have gone missing. Some people think aliens have abducted these ships. Some people think that these giant cyclones are sucking them underwater. A lot of people think there's this magnetic vortex pulling these ships and these planes underwater, and they're actually going to the lost city of gold or the Atlantis. Nobody knows for sure, but again, remember what I just said. A lot of people think there's a magnetic pull in this part of the ocean that are pulling these planes and these ships underwater, and nobody knows where they go. Okay, that's unsolved mystery number one. We're going to talk about another one that ties in with that. Okay, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there was this Malaysia airline flight 370 that went missing. And it is known as one of aviation's greatest mysteries because it's been 10 years and no one has been able to find the plane or really any pieces that go with it. Now, this is the story. It's super crazy. Okay, it's March 8th, 2014. Malaysia Flight 370 is going to take off from Malaysia and it's going to fly to Beijing. It's an overnight flight. It's one that they do every single day. So the flight takes off around 12:41 a.m. So in the very middle of the night, all right? And it's going very smoothly. However, about 38 minutes in, the pilot gets on and he's doing his checks with the flight tower. And instead of saying, registering that he's logging off and they're going to switch it over to another flight tower, he says something like, "Good night." And normally you think, okay, good night, it's the middle of the night, pretty normal. However, that's not really traditional protocol for whenever you're logging off the flight. And so a couple minutes goes by and all of a sudden, the Malaysia Flight 370 goes off the radar. And for the next 10 minutes, radio silence. Well, a couple more minutes goes by and a military base is able to pick it up on their radar and they start tracking it, all right? And they track it for the next hour. And something really strange happens because as the flight's supposed to be going northeast, it makes this dramatic turn and it starts going west and it's going over the Indian Ocean, all right? By 8:11 a.m., the flight is completely missing. Nobody knows where it's gone. No one's been able to find it. Now, some people think that the flight actually crashed, that there was electrical issues and that the plane went down in the middle of the Indian Ocean, all right? Some people think that this pilot took it to some foreign base and no one knows where it is. However, something kind of crazy stuck out to me. They said that once the family was notified that the plane had gone missing, that a lot of the loved ones had called their loved ones trying to get a hold of them just to confirm that they were missing. And normally, if a plane sinks in the middle of the ocean and your phone gets wet, then when you call, it goes straight to voice message. However, some of these family members start calling their loved ones and it starts ringing. And it's ringing and it's ringing. And this happens to a few family members. One of those family members actually hears the phone click on, like someone answers it, and then it clicks off really quickly. All right. Well, this got people thinking. It got their brains moving. It got all these conspiracy theorists out there thinking, wait, maybe this flight's not actually crashed. A lot of people think that because of the placement over the Indian Ocean in which the flight was flying, there is this magnetic pull. Some people think that this flight was pulled into this time warp, this magnetic pull, and is actually on some undisclosed island, or it's in the middle of the ocean, but people are still alive. No one knows. Now, this is the crazy part though, because this was some big unsolved mystery, so a lot of people got involved. So they sent 29 aircrafts, 334 search flights, 14 ships. For over 10 years, they searched 1.7 million square miles for this plane. And to this day, they have more questions than they have answers. All right? The flight is missing. No one knows where it is. However, some people think because when you use that phone and you call the loved ones, it still rings, that it's still out there. And some magnetic pull pulled it and we don't know where it is. And it's still a huge mystery. Okay, so our next mystery is one of the 7 greatest mysteries of the world, and that is the pyramids. Now, that is on my bucket list. I am dying to go to the ancient pyramids in Egypt. However, not on the travel plans just yet, so I'm gonna start doing research instead, and so when the time comes, I know all about it. So I've been doing research lately, and it's really added more questions than it has answers, because I was doing research, and it said that the ancient pyramids were built 4,500 years ago, all right? Way in the past, all right? Way back when there was no modern technology. Now, these pyramids are massive. It is said that they are 480 feet tall. So it is one of the largest man-made buildings, structures ever to be made in the world, all right? So I was trying to figure out how these were actually made, and this is what's crazy. Okay, it is said that 2.3 million stones, limestones, were constructed on top of each other to make the pyramid. Now, yeah, I'm thinking stone, sure, we've got guys passing down the stones. No. One stone weighed 2.5 tons. That would be like putting 25 refrigerators on top of one another. That's how heavy one stone would be. And I said there were 2.3 million stones used to build a pyramid. How is that even possible? This was built so long ago when we didn't have cranes or tractors or trucks. They basically had their bare hands. Some people say that it took 100,000 people 20 years to build pyramids. I'm not sure if I believe that. No one really knows how this was constructed, but to this day, it is one of the greatest mysteries. Now, I was doing more research and I came across a really interesting story. All right, you had to do some digging to find this. Now, it was said that the pyramids were built so that one day when the pharaohs or the kings died, they would be buried in there. So one of the most powerful rulers of the time was King Kuhfu, all right? And so they built the Great Pyramid of Giza so that when King Kuhfu died, they were going to bury him in there. And they believed back in the day that when you died, you became living once again. So when they buried these people, these kings, in these tombs in the pyramids, they would bury them with gold and treasure and food and clothes, everything they would need for when they woke up, it would be ready for them. So they packed the Great Pyramid of Giza, one of the biggest pyramids of all time, with all the best riches and jewels. And pretty soon, it was pretty widespread that these pyramids had all this wealth. And so it brought people from all over trying to break into these pyramids, but they were not able to. However, there was a famous explorer by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte, all right? And he heard about the pyramids and decided he was going to go on a voyage and he was going to be the one that found all the treasure. So he put together this team, and one night they went to explore the pyramid and they came across this trapdoor, all right? And they were able to go inside, and he had a small team with him. So they start exploring and they're going through these tunnels or they're going through the secret passages. And as they go, they start feeling this magnetic pull and it's pulling them in a certain direction. So they start going. Well, it's very dark in there. They only have one candle. So Napoleon's leading the way, and pretty soon he comes to this door, and this door is made of all gold, and it looks like this is where it houses King Kuhfu. So he tries to get him, but he can't. And he looks around and he's about to ask for help when he looks behind him and no one's there. All the members of his team are no longer there. And so he starts calling out to them, but he hears nothing. Well, he gets spooked, all right? And his candle's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So he knows he has to leave. So he starts tracing his tracks, but he gets lost because he's in the middle of this tomb in this pyramid where he's not supposed to be. And so pretty sure he's winding his way when he feels this magnetic pull and it's pulling him in this other direction. All right, and pretty soon he's able to find that trapdoor out, and he goes out, and there are people waiting to see if he actually found the treasure. But when they see him, he is white as a ghost, and he's by himself, and they ask him, where's everyone? Where's everyone? And he's speechless. He doesn't know what to say. All he says is that there was a magnetic pull, and I got discombobulated. I have no idea where I was going, but I did not find the treasure, and they never find the remainder of his men. And it said that this pyramid is actually kind of haunted or protected by this magnetic board that keeps people from going in. And that to this day, some people get lost. If they find that secret entrance and they go in, this magnetic pulls them to the middle of this pyramid and they're never found again. All right, so that's another one of my unsolved mysteries. But that leads me to my next one, which is even crazier. Okay, so we just talked about how the pyramid is one of the 7 wonders of the world. However, there's another wonder of the world known as the medieval wonder of the world, and that is the Stonehenge, located in Wiltshire, England. And if you've never heard of the Stonehenge, that's totally fine. I'm going to tell you all about it. The Stonehenge is this giant circle made of these giant boulders, these stones, all right? And I'm not talking about little rocks that make this circle. I'm talking about these huge stones that are 13 feet tall, 7 feet wide, that weigh 25 tons, and they are from all over England. All right, now if you think about that, these are giant, massive, heavy rocks. How in the world did people get these massive rocks to Wiltshire, England from 300 miles away? They didn't have modern technology. It was said that the Stonehenge was built over 5,000 years ago. All right, so where and how did these rocks come from? All right, so scientists have been doing research over the years, all right, and they started testing them and coming up with their own conclusions. Like, why are these rocks here? Well, they end up thinking that these rocks were actually put in a circle for a reason. It's actually to represent the rising and the setting of the sun. It's basically, it was their way of creating a calendar and keeping track of the sun schedule and the days of the week. However, there's got to be more of a reason to that. And so I decided I was going to do some more research. Okay. So I'm on the computer and I came across this story. I came across this guy who likes to travel around the world and try to discover unsolved mysteries. And he came across the Stonehenge and it intrigued him. So he decided he was going to fly to Wiltshire, England, and he was going to go visit the Stonehenge. Well, while he was there, he ended up coming across this little bookstore in the middle of the town. So he walks in and he meets the storekeeper and he gets to talking about how he just loves history, and they become friends. And pretty soon he's being brought to the back of the store, to the restricted section where only the locals are allowed. And back there are hundreds of books, all right? Old books, not books from today, but books from hundreds of years ago that give the history of the town. Well, this guy is like a little kid in the candy shop. He goes to town and he spends hours in there and he's reading about everything about the Stonehenge, about the town, and pretty soon he comes across this book about the town's lineage, about the 10 founding families who came to Wiltshire, England, who really got the town started. And so he's reading over all these names, and there's a lot of names from back in time that he recognized, like Smith and Fletcher and Knight and Squire, all right? And so he's reading these names, and then he comes across a couple names that startle him. Why, if this book is hundreds of years old, does he see modern names from the 21st century? Names that you and I would hear today, but were not around back in the day. So maybe like name April or Rhett or Bo. These are common names today, but were unheard of back then. So he puts the book aside, and he starts doing more research. Now he's paying way close attention about the books in front of him. And pretty soon he sees this old book. It's got this old seam, and he pulls it out, and it says, "The Founding Fathers of the Stonehenge." So he opens up this book, and these pages are so old, it is very hard to translate because these pages are so fragile. He has to be really careful. And he starts reading. And he starts reading about how the Stonehenge was built, like we said before, to show the sun cycle. And it is said that on June 21st, every year, the longest day of the year, the summer solstice, that these 10 families would come back to the Stonehenge, and no one else was allowed in the area but those 10 families. And so he starts doing more research and he starts reading, and he's so enthralled in this book because he knows right here in this book there's going to be a mystery that's going to be solved, and he's going to be the one that does it. So he's reading about this and he's thinking to himself, this can't actually be true. It is said that these 10 families, the blood relatives who are still alive today, meet on June 21st every year at the Stonehenge, all right? And supposedly they do this ritual. No one knows what happens during the ritual, but it's said that that day in Wiltshire, England, that it almost feels like the day is heavy. Like the wind, the air, everything feels heavier. And that throughout the town, there is this low buzzing sound, all right? No one knows what goes in, but documented in this book, it shows who is there at the meeting and who leaves and is absent, all right? And they're absent for the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting each year, and years goes by, and then they're back there again. So he starts reading more, and it says that if you are a blood relative of one of the founding members, supposedly you have the ability to go back into time if you touch your hand on the stone on that one day every year, that June 21st. And that's how the Stonehenge was built. People go back into time bringing modern technology and are able to help them figure a way to move these stones. And that these families are the keeper of the Stonehenge. They make sure it stays upright and they keep it in good shape. And so it is said that if you are of that bloodline, you have the ability to go back into time. This magnetic pull pulls you through the stone, which has me thinking again. We've heard about a magnetic pull at the Bermuda Triangle. We've heard about the magnetic pull that some people thought brought the Malaysia Airlines into the ocean. We've heard about the magnetic pull that brought people through the pyramids in Giza, and now we're hearing about a magnetic pull that pulls you through the stone. So my question for you is, do you think that there are these time warps, these magnetic stones pulls throughout the world that can take people back into time? I have no idea. Do you think that? I challenge you to do some more research. See if you can find another story that's unsolved, that people can't quite figure out why something goes missing or where it goes. And I bet you they all tie together. So keep your brain moving, keep researching. Let's see if we can find something else out there that no one else can figure out what happened.